If that was you on the phone and you on the bus, then who was flickering the lights?
Nobody talked about the elephant in the room. They still protecting MJ so much, the guy they love so much. No one asked, well, dang, if MJ was supposed to trade him from Elton Brand, which makes a whole lot of sense, and that didn't happen, could MJ be the type of guy that benched this guy and put him through shit, and maybe that has something to do with something?
It's FIL Sportsman, it's Lamont. We are back with another podcast episode. And man, today we had to eventually talk about it. It's just something that's just been going through not just social media, it's been going through all types of news outlets, whether it's mainstream or just small. But this Kwame Brown situation is definitely a viral sports media headline that definitely needs to be addressed. Now, this was one of those topics here on FYF Sports. There was so much going on and it was developing so fast. There were so many people jumping into this topic and there were so many people jumping out of this topic. I just felt the best way to get an angle on this is to just sit back and just watch and see how these things unfold, see all the players involved, see who says what, who backs down, who steps forward. And really, this has really been a very lopsided debate. You know, here at FYF Sports, you know, FYF, we're all about good debates. And, you know, in that context, this has definitely been a lopsided debate, heavily favoring Kwame Brown. And not just heavily favoring Kwame Brown on social media, but, you know, financially as well. This man, you know, all of these people listed in this picture, whether it's Jordan, Stephen A. Smith, Charlamagne the God, Jemele Hill, Matt Barnes, all of these people who call Kwame Brown a bust ultimately have been somewhat responsible for his rise in fame on social media, bringing more attention to some of the other things that he's spoken about in the past. So now people are going back looking at his old videos. What's the message? What's the content that he's putting out? Because now the truth is starting to get out there. So again, before we get started today, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to the video. And again, we're going to be playing some content. We're going to be using some of Kwame Brown's content from his channel. So again, make sure you guys, you go follow this man on social media. His channel name is Kwame Brown Bust Life. The link to his channel is going to be in the description of this video. So make sure you go check his content out. And again, one thing I have to say, don't just go look at the recent content with the beefs and going back and forth with some of the, you know, the stars of social media. Go look at some of his older videos. There's a lot of good content on that channel that really was getting glossed over. It was really getting looked over because he was Kwame Brown, because people like Stephen A. Smith and the Charlamagne the Gods and all of these people in mainstream media were trying to tarnish his name. They were trying to simply use his basketball career as the defining focal point of his life and what he's accomplished. So, you know, this situation has helped me get a better understanding of who Kwame Brown is. It's helped me get an understanding of a lot of the things that he's doing outside of basketball to better the community. And we're just going to break down this entire situation. I really want to, you know, I want to start from the beginning. I want to look at all the players involved. My thing is, with some of these people, I don't know why they involve themselves, and why would you put yourself on the chopping block, knowing that this man is really chopping down everything in front of him. All right. So again, when we talk about Kwame Brown, because a lot of you guys, if you don't know who Kwame Brown is, he's a former American basketball player. He spent 12 years in the NBA. He was selected by the Washington Wizards in the 2001 NBA draft. Now, Brown was the number 1 overall pick to be chosen out of high school, and he was selected by Michael Jordan. All right, so going to that Wizards team, playing for Michael Jordan, a lot is riding on him to be the future of that franchise. Now, he played for a number of other teams in the NBA. He played for the Lakers, the Grizzlies, the Detroit Pistons, Charlotte Bobcats, Golden State Warriors, and the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, his performance as the first overall pick has led many analysts like Stephen A. Smith to label him as one of the biggest busts in NBA history. Here's a compilation of some of the takes that Stephen A. Has on Kwame Brown.
Kwame Brown.
Did LA give up too much to get a guy who has been labeled soft, although he puts up 19 and 9, which only 11 other guys do?
Is that a trick question?
You tell me.
They gave up Kwame Brown.
Two
Who
first
cares?
rounders.
I could care less.
Tied into his salary for 4 years.
First of all, understand something. When you're giving up first round picks, if you are a quality team in playoff contention, it really doesn't mean that much. That's number one. Number two, and more importantly, Kwame Brown is gone. The City of Angels, Hollywood, just should be celebrated. Throw a parade already, whether you win a championship or not. This man was a bona fide scrub. He can't play. No disrespect whatsoever, but I'm sorry to tell everybody the truth. The man cannot play the game of basketball. He has small hands. He can't catch the ball. He's got bad feet. He can't really move, even though he's mobile. Doesn't really know what he's doing. Doesn't have a post move that he puts to memory that he can do 2 times in a row. He has no game whatsoever. Plays no defense. Doesn't have the heart, the passion, or anything that comes with it. And you're asking me whether they gave up too much? Please. The Los Angeles Lakers knew exactly what they were doing. They should be celebrating right now. And Kobe Bryant should not be saying a word.
And so there you have it right there. You see Kwame, you see Stephen A. Smith, as shown here in the thumbnail. He's just one of those media heads that's constantly, I'm talking about over the last 10, 15 years, he's constantly used Kwame Brown as the figurehead of failure in the NBA. Whenever they want to talk about failure in the NBA, they don't talk about the Adam Morrises, they don't talk about the Jimmy Fredettes. There's a lot of players that they don't talk about who ultimately also had failed careers, even though there was a lot of promise. They use Kwame Brown for whatever reason. And Kwame Brown has really come out as a strong advocate against these notions. And it's primarily because a lot of these other failed players are white athletes. They're white athletes whose careers didn't go the way they wanted to. But those same players, when we look at the Jeremy Lins and all these other guys, they've been able to have successful careers outside of the NBA, and they don't have to worry about turning on ESPN or any sports network having to hear their name constantly connected to failure. And this is something that Kwame Brown, for the most part, and I honestly don't know how he's done it. He's been primarily silent about these issues over the last 10, 15, 20 years since he's left the NBA. He's went back home. He started a farm. He's bought land. He's cultivating in his own community. And he's kind of let a lot of these things that people are saying about him being the brunt of the joke, he's really let it go to the wayside. He's taken the higher road. All right. And so ultimately, I think things hit a boiling point. And I don't even know if it hit a boiling point. It could have already hit a boiling point. But this particular situation got exacerbated. It got jump started on a recent episode on the All the Smoke podcast. All right, All the Smoke podcast is it's a podcast that's ran by Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes on YouTube. And so they had Gilbert Arenas on the podcast. In a small segment of that podcast, they were talking about Gilbert Arenas' time in Washington, and then the topic of Kwame Brown actually was brought up, where Arenas ended up calling Kwame Brown a show pony, adding that Michael Jordan aided in killing his confidence. And once Kwame Brown caught wind of what Gilbert Arenas was saying, he unleashed a series of tirades against his former colleagues, much to the delight of NBA Twitter and general lovers of just drama on the internet. Let me play this clip for you of what Gilbert Arenas said about Kwame Brown.
Into a playoff team.
It was, it was amazing. It was, you're going out of the Jordan era and you're coming in. Well, it was one of those things where I'm coming into, remember Kwame Brown's there, so he's the franchise.
First pick.
Yeah, he's a franchise.
Matt was just talking the previous show we just had how good Kwame was.
Y'all killed him, man.
No, I didn't say nothing about it.
Matt was like that was one of the top number one picks they could ever round, right?
Here you go.
I'm just saying what Matt said this shit. I had nothing to say.
Matt didn't say shit.
Matt said Kwame was one of the coldest, one of the best number one picks ever of all time.
He could have been. He could have been. And this is why. Imagine being an 18-year-old kid getting drafted number one by your idol.
Yeah.
And your idol is Michael Jordan.
Right.
We know Michael Jordan. We know Michael Jordan's personality.
Right.
Imagine that personality
slapped him in the face
going towards a 18-year-old kid. Just bullying him, and you got to remember, he's around his peers. You're not his peer.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're not his peer. These are his peers. So when you're making him look little to his peers, he loses his confidence. So when I get there, he doesn't have confidence. You know what I mean? So it's trying to build this man child up. And when I mean man child, you're talking about just a big country human.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So physically I called him the show pony. He's a show horse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Probably couldn't race.
look good though.
Look good though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So in games, you will see
you see flashes
oh, he's gone. But then you have a flash of trauma. You have a flash of trauma. You're like, and who he could have been more like an Anthony Davis style. You're talking about a 7-foot guy who was probably the second fastest on our team. Like just straight 100. Oh, he was gone. Small hands. So he was more guard-like. You know what I mean? So when he decided to take off, he's gone, ball still there. You know what I mean? But I just think it was like, that's what I'm saying. But the ball was still there. He was gone. Though. But it was more the trauma than anything. And it was more like, even though Jordan left, he still needed a fresh start. Because once I got there, I don't got time to be fucking with you. You know what I mean? I ain't got time. It's either your team or my team. We both in the same draft. You know what I mean? We both in the same draft, and right now I make more money than you, so technically it's my team.
Right.
And I just
got seniority.
And then right now it's like between me and Stackhouse, I got Big Stack with me too, so it's like it's Stack's team.
You got a dominant
I'm the
personality.
future. You know what I mean? It's Stack's team, but I'm the future. And Stack's like, nah. And then he laid the rule down. He said, I remember we had the team meeting. He was like, listen. If your ass averaged 5 last year, the most your ass gonna average this year is 8. You ain't gonna be going from 5 to 20.
Yeah, no.
Get that shit out your brain.
Not on this team.
I'm sitting here like, okay, that stops all that shit.
And I think, after listening to that clip, I think Kwame Brown just sat back and said, look, I have a platform. He's had a YouTube channel for some time now. I might as well just go about responding to some of these ridiculous claims that a lot of these players put out there. I've been telling you guys for a long time on this channel, the NBA, even at D1 college basketball level, overseas, it's all politics. Players like Kwame Brown, who even if you're the number one overall pick, politics can ruin your career as well. And I think with Kwame Brown, some of the politics of the NBA really started to really hurt his career. His relationship with Michael Jordan, he's admitted, wasn't the greatest because he didn't want to fall in line and do some of the things that they wanted him to do. He even gave a good story about how he went to a dinner with some NBA executives, once he was drafted, and they took him to I think it was a Greek restaurant, and he was like, I don't eat this. He went across the street and got what he wanted. I mean, things like that can probably upset the figureheads at the top of the NBA, especially when you feel like you're different. You want to be the outlier. You want to do things your own way, and ultimately, that potentially could have been what hindered him. I think he was uber talented. A guy who's drafted #1 all in the NBA, you don't just get looked at to that degree if you're not highly skilled. Out of all the players in the 2001 in that 2001 draft class, there's a lot of talent. Kwame Brown, he wasn't the #1 prospect in that draft by accident. Coming out of high school, everybody in America believed that he was the best player in that draft, and everybody in America knew that he was going to get drafted #1 overall. So how all of a sudden are we saying that he's a bust without really evaluating his career, and then also evaluating the politics that went behind some of the things that potentially may have stifled his career? No one's really taking the time to do that. You know, we've done that on a number of occasions. We've talked about how the politics of the game can really affect a player's career. All right, we're not going to get into that this show, but all you have to do is go over to Kwame Brown's channel, and he talks about these things on a daily basis. It's the politics of the game, and he even had a segment where he talked about his relationship with Michael Jordan and how he felt that had an impact on his success. He gave examples of how he would work out 2 and 3 hours, had 2 and 3 hour workouts before a game, and then when it came game time, they would ask him to go into the game and actually perform at a high level, expecting them to perform at a high level, when that just really doesn't make sense. So where there were a lot of things where it felt as if he was putting it in a position to fail. Why? We will never really know. All you have to do is go check out his channel, go watch his videos, and every day he's dropping videos, giving tidbits of information, really revealing and exposing some of the things that went behind his career in the NBA. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you know, even though he was a #1 pick, the man played 12 years in the NBA. I don't think you play that long in the NBA if you're just a complete bust. You have to have some skill, talent, and I just think that the situations he was placed in, whether it was with the Washington Wizards, which was not a very good, that organization was not ran very well. When you look at his situation with the Lakers, all right, I think playing behind Kobe, he never was going to get a fair shake. Right? He never was going to get a fair shake. They ended up trading him to Memphis for Paul Gasol. But then you also have the insults and jokes thrown at him when discussing that trade. And I think he did not like some of the things that were just, for whatever reason, just randomly thrown at him when that conversation was brought up as well. So Kwame Brown is finally, the only thing he's doing right now, he's just responding back to all of the critics. And the one thing that's happened since he started to respond to the critics, the #1 thing that started happening is now all of a sudden everybody that he's talking about, or people who decide to interject themselves into this particular debate, they're playing the victim role. Example #1, we have Jemele Hill, formerly of ESPN. She's complaining now that Kwame Brown's attacks on her are bringing threats to her for no reason. But when you look back at it, when you look back at this situation with Jemele Hill, you interjected yourself into this particular conversation, and not at the behest of Kwame Brown. You did that on your own. You interjected yourself into this conversation. And look at these tweets right here. Here's some tweets right here. I'm gonna pull them up right here. Jemele Hill interjected herself in this particular debate. Now, remember, Kwame Brown's initial responses were directed towards Gilbert Arenas, Matt Barnes, Steven Jackson, and the All the Smoke podcast. She interjects herself into this conversation. On May 18th, she tweets, "Kwame Brown got me checking the tape to make sure I ain't ever said shit about him. If I did, I'm sorry. Please don't talk about my mama." She further and she also tweeted the day before, "Kwame Brown, today and yesterday," and then she put violence, and she turned it on. So Kwame Brown, the type of person that he is, if you start to listen to a lot of his videos, you can tell that he's highly intelligent. and he doesn't fall for some of these media ploys and some of these media trigger words that they like to use to galvanize and play victim. I think Jemele Hill, ever since she's been on ESPN, I think she's taken the time in certain situations and certain circumstances to play the victim when she's not necessarily the victim. That situation where she made a tweet about Trump, playing the victim role when you're not necessarily a victim in that particular situation. Even at ESPN, there were a lot of situations when you're talking about male athletes where all of a sudden you put yourself you interject yourself into some of these situations and try to sound as if you're the victim. But this was a situation where Jemele Hill interjected herself into the discussion by stating that she did not want to be in the crosshairs. So she was checking.
Jemele Hill. Good morning. Good morning, Black Queen, if that's what you are. Let me ask you a series of questions. But I'm going to ask you over on my YouTube channel. Because you said that all weekend I was being violent. So that leads me to believe something is a little off about you. Miss Hill, ma'am. I have children, Miss Hill. And you just lied on me. You on deck.
Crosshairs. So she was checking the tape to see if she had said anything negative about him. Well, the thing is, Jemele Hill is highly intelligent. I think we all know that you probably have said something about him, and you probably said something about Kwame Brown along the lines of him being a bust, just like a lot of these other media figureheads have done so in the past. And you probably used him as an example of failure in the NBA. And this is something that Kwame Brown's not doing anything out of the normal. He's just said, finally, for once, I'm going to respond. Jemele Hill interjected herself in that conversation, and ultimately Kwame Brown took to flaming her and exposing her and some of the devious things that she's done in her career. Which, again, why she interjected herself into this, I have no idea. But some of these people are just diving right in the line of fire and then looking at their bodies, wondering why they all shot up. That's why right there. On top of the fact that you used that trigger word, and one thing he didn't like was she went to the media bailout trigger word, trying to use violence. He did not like that connection of violence and then how she connected that with him. And that goes hand in hand with some of the things that Charlamagne the God had even stated. That you're talking about a black woman who's now connecting violence with a black man who's really never been in trouble with the law for violence. He's never beat anybody up and got arrested for it. In the NBA, he was known as a hard-nosed player, but he was never known. He was never out there just punching and beating people up. As some of you 90s fans talk about how those 90s fans like Charles Oakley is going to beat you up. No, he was never known as that. All right, so where you get this term violence from, and then you try to use it with a black man, is very, very concerning. And the only thing that Kwame Brown's done in this particular situation was he's brought these things up. He's talked about how the media tries to use these tricks, and then he's called you guys out for using it. So now everybody is looking at you. So Jemele Hill, the ether, the fire that you're getting on social media, it will ultimately go away. All right, a lot of these threats are just null and void. It will ultimately go away. But the thing is, you have to remember, and you have to start with the fact that you interjected yourself into this particular conversation on your own. And you guys, it's not just Jemele Hill. It's not just Jemele Hill. I want you guys to take a look at some of these images. I mean, check out this image right here by Clutch Points. All right, as soon as Kwame Brown ultimately started responding to everybody, ClutchPoints.com immediately connected everything that Kwame Brown was doing with a fight. All right, so whenever he talked about Stephen A. Smith, Clutch Points, when posting articles about that conversation, they create images like this: Kwame Brown's knocking out Stephen A. Smith. Between two black men, it always has to resort to a physical fight. All right, when we talk about when his back and forth conversation with Steven Jackson, where they put him in the ring. All right, the guy that says, "Are you ready to rumble?" They have him in there as if these guys are in a boxing ring, ready to fight it out. All right, especially after Steven Jackson had dropped a tweet. Here's that Steven Jackson tweet. Steven Jackson even said Steven Jackson wants smoke with Kwame. All right, and Steven Jackson's tweet said, "I'm back in Atlanta. Pull up. Bring as many people as you want to feel safe. I need to look in your eyes, big guy." All right, I mean, Steven Jackson again. Kwame Brown has been calling Steven Jackson out as a fake gangster, saying he's too old to be trying to gangbang. He's too old to be in these groups. He's calling him out. He's calling him out for what it is. He's saying that, look, you're the one perpetuating this violence, not me. I mean, we have another image. We have another image right here when he was talking to Matt Barnes, during his back and forth with Matt Barnes. What does Clutch Points do? All right, Clutch Points put those two guys in a boxing ring as if they're going to be in another fist fight, an all-out war, as opposed to just talking it out or maybe dealing with it behind the scenes like men. And I understand. I feel where Kwame Brown is coming from. When Kwame Brown says that, look, you guys said these things publicly, you guys did these things publicly, I would like a public apology. I'm all for that. You guys know that I'm all for that. I hate it when people try to do things publicly, and then when they get exposed and proven to be wrong, then they only want to try to apologize and rectify things behind the scenes because of pride. Hey, we've seen that here on FYF Sports. We've seen that here firsthand. All right, so it doesn't surprise me that when you're dealing with people like this, when you're dealing with the Steven Jacksons and the Matt Barnes, but again, I appreciate their podcast, but Kwame Brown has exposed a number of things. He's even exposed the fact that their name, All the Smoke Podcast, has a negative street connotation that asserts and alludes to violence. All right, but Jemele Hill never connected those two with violence. She never connected anyone else involved in this situation with violence other than Kwame Brown. And I think out of all the people in this particular situation, I think the most egregious act was committed by Charlamagne the God. All right. Charlamagne the God, again, interjected himself for whatever reason. And I think he does this with a lot of situations. I think he just wants to have a voice on some of these situations. Maybe he feels like he's the voice of black people. I don't know what he feels, but he wanted to also interject himself into this situation for really no real particular reason other than he's also from the same state as Kwame Brown. And I want you guys to listen to what he said about Kwame Brown on his podcast, The Breakfast Club.
Let me tell y'all something. Leave Kwame Brown alone. I don't know if y'all know, but you could do a little research. Kwame Brown was born in Charleston, South Carolina. I don't think I've ever met Kwame, but I know a lot of his family. His family lived in Mounts Corner, South Carolina. His father's name was Willie Brown. I don't know how many kids Willie Brown had. I don't know how many siblings Kwame Brown got, but I went to school with his sister, and I went to school with one of his brothers. Let me tell y'all something. Kwame's father in the 90s, I remember this story. He beat a woman with an axe handle. It was his girlfriend. And the rumor was he buried her alive. He buried her in the area that I grew up in, if I remember correctly. I've been trying to call my dad since yesterday to confirm the whole story because I literally forgot about this until yesterday. But the woman died and he got arrested. If he's still alive, he's in prison for life because he got caught because he left South Carolina after the murder and came back for his paycheck. Let me tell you something else. His other brother, I don't know if him and Kwame were close, but his other brother shot his baby mama several times and then killed himself. That was like in 2008. And his other brother, Kwame's other brother, just went to jail for murder like 3 years ago. All of this you can Google. I'm saying all that to say, leave Kwame alone. That man has been quiet for 20 years. He don't bother nobody. Clearly all that, all that he's a bust stuff gets to him, and you don't know what people are going through or have been through, but I've seen folks snap for less, and it looks like, Kwame is snapping. And if you look at the history of men in his family, you would know his men in his family have a history of snapping. Leave Kwame.
And so Kwame Brown came back on Charlamagne the God with such a max ether. Y'all know the terminology that we like to use here at FYF Sports. If you're new to the channel and you're not familiar with the max ether is a debate term that we like to use. All right, we do a lot of head-to-head debates, sports debates here. And when you just get absolutely taken down and your debate topics and your takes just completely get obliterated, you just got max ether. That's where that term comes from. With Kwame Brown and Charlamagne the God, Charlamagne the God got the max ether to such a degree that he sent he had his attorney send Kwame Brown a cease and desist letter.
Do you sleep in a coffin or something? Why would you let that man sit across from you knowing what he did to that woman? That's a goddamn shame. Why would this company keep this son bitch on? Why is he still on a national radio show? I thought it was Love All Women. Or am I absolutely right that it's pick-me's? And then if it's the motherfucker you go eat lunch with, or if it's the motherfucker you follow on Instagram that you like, because nobody like me, but the motherfucker you like, a punk bitch can brag and dominate a woman and then sit there and talk about it on a goddamn interview, further mentally fucking up this lady. Because he know his white daddy gonna protect him. But you black women, y'all have been complicit in this shit. This nigga got a lot of famous black women that's his friend. I'm gonna expect you women to unfollow this son of a bitch. Are y'all supporting his behavior? Huh? Are y'all backing this nigga's behavior? Why do Charlamagne the God get a pass for what he did? Because I want that pass too. How the fuck can I get a pass? I would never do something like that. But how the fuck can I be so disgusting and such a piece of shit, and then I can be at the front line acting like I'm somebody peaceful and nice and put together, when all I do is disrespect black men, throw bunkie and penis at them, and act like a weirdo, because the things that he does is not even polite. You don't throw no bunkie at no goddamn grown ass man. If he did that to a woman, you guys would see the bad behavior in it.
And again, similar here to FYF Sports, we've had people attempt to threaten us with lawyers because of the Max Ether. Right? So we've dished out a number of Max Ethers on our own, albeit ours are about sports takes, but we've dished out a number of Max Ethers, and we've seen people try to threaten us legally. But Kwame Brown actually received a cease and desist letter from Charlamagne the God, and I think that really getting exposed, and Kwame Brown still not being scared to even talk on Charlamagne even after the fact, I think that's what led Charlamagne the God to ultimately say, look, I just have to apologize to this guy for what I did.
Donkey today for Monday, May 24th goes to me, Leonard McKelvey. Contrary to popular belief, this is not the first time I've given myself Donkey of the Day, because Donkey of the Day does not discriminate. I mean, I may be kind of biased towards certain people, but I don't have any bias when it comes to myself. If I'm wrong, if something I do or say doesn't sit right with my spirit, I have to apologize and do better moving forward, and that's what I'm about to do right now. I want to apologize to Kwame Brown and Kwame Brown's family. I want to apologize to his father, Bill Brown, and the family of his father. See, last week on this radio, in my attempt to defend a Charleston, South Carolina-born brother like myself, I revealed too much information about that man's family. And even though all that stuff is public record, some things just don't need to be said on the radio, and they definitely don't need to be said by me. When I look back, on the way I communicated that, I communicated it all wrong. And I unintentionally triggered trauma in a lot of folks I grew up with, who I genuinely love. I'm sure I caused a lot of pain for not only Kwame Brown, but for his family, especially his family in my hometown of Moncks Corner, South Carolina. You know how I know? Because I spoke to a few of them. I've been on the phone this weekend with mothers of children and their children. Salute to Shaliba and her daughter, Brianda. I was on the phone with sisters like Wallette. Salute to Wallette. Oh, she cursed me out good. And, I was apologizing for triggering them, causing them pain, because I was casually discussing their family's trauma, man. And that's something that I have to stop doing. That's something that we all have to stop doing. I was talking to my Sacred Purpose coach, Yadi Alba, this weekend. She's like a spiritual therapist. I have her and my clinical therapist, and that's what we were talking about, how we casually discuss each other's traumas. I didn't even think about, when I spoke on, Kwame and his family, how many people were impacted by those things I was speaking on. I mean, that's generational. Okay, I caused pain and unintentionally poked at people's wounds. Okay, wounds that will probably never heal. And I can't take back those words, but I can apologize. I think oftentimes we meaning black people, we fight each other with our demons, whether true or false, whatever is the worst thing we know about a person or think we know about a person, we default to that. And that was not my intention. I was not in any way, shape, or form trying to paint Kwame in a negative light. Okay, that black man is not my op. He wasn't my op when I said it. In my mind, I'm defending that man, but I should have been defending him as Leonard, Charlamagne the God, McKelvey, the professional, and not Leonard, Larry, whatever you want to call me from Moncks Corner, South Carolina, talking like I'm home in the town on why I believe they need to leave Kwame Brown alone. That was whack, because the conversation didn't even have to go there. The conversation should have been about basketball. Yes, leave Kwame Brown alone because he achieved a goal and a dream that 1.3% of NCAA seniors will achieve, and 0.03% of high school seniors. You know how small a number that is? And that's just simply being drafted in the NBA. If you play 13 seasons and make $65 million, you're a success, okay? If you work 13 years anywhere and make that kind of money, you're a success. So salute to that man. The only expectations we have to live up to is our own. That's why I always say success is subjective, okay? My views of success may be different than yours. As long as you're happy, that's all that matters. But we didn't even get into that conversation because my mind automatically went to something that it didn't even have to go to. In doing that, I unintentionally caused trauma. And since I unintentionally caused trauma, I have to be intentional about causing healing. I'm not about to sit around and have beef with another black man for nothing. Trust me, as y'all know, I have a lot of real enemies who are gunning for me every day. Kwame Brown is not going to be one of them, okay? I totally understand why Kwame Brown was upset at me. I went low. That wasn't my intention. But in hindsight, it was low. And Kwame took it to the floor with me. And y'all be online so excited, ready to see black people go back and forth and tear each other down. I'm not doing that. I'm not going back and forth if I feel like I wronged somebody. I'm going to apologize. That's what I think a good man does. A good man apologizes for the mistakes, that he made. But a great man corrects them. Hopefully, I get the opportunity to do that one day. But for now,
for what I did, because Kwame Brown, he had been unleashing on everybody who's talked down on him through his 13-year NBA career. All right. So when Charlamagne the God interjected himself into this conversation, what that did to Charlamagne the God was, when Charlamagne's the God, when you start to bring up someone's family, when you start to bring up, things that go, that you may know that no one else knows. He started talking about Kwame Brown's dad and brothers and things like that. And then also, similar to Jemele Hill, alluding, trying to connect those things to Kwame Brown to make the connection that he is also violent. You got to get the max ether for that. And Charlamagne the God, well, you open the door for your demons to be reevaluated. And Kwame Brown went to town on Charlamagne the God, bringing up a past rape case that he was involved with, in which he pled out to lesser charges. Charlamagne the God wasn't convicted of rape, but he pled out to lesser charges of providing alcohol to a minor. But the situations and the circumstances in that particular event, it's what people are doing now is they're retrying him in the public. This is something that Charlamagne the God, this is why Charlamagne the God should have never interjected himself in this conversation, because he just dealt with a situation where that was something of his past. He addressed it, all right? Luckily, it was able to go away, but because he interjected himself into a situation speaking on someone else's past and family, he opened the door for a guy like Kwame Brown, who had a growing platform, a platform that's growing even as we speak. He opened the door for his past to be reevaluated and be retried by the public. And Kwame Brown has a fan base that's really going to look into these things. So you have people like Ebro and a number of other social media heads really looking at some of these things. Really pulling up the documents, looking at this situation, the potential or the alleged rape, and saying, look, the facts of this case don't look good for Charlamagne. And so the last thing that Charlamagne the God needed was for that particular case to get retried, because that could cost him everything. So what did Charlamagne the God do? Charlamagne the God, something that I've never seen this man do on his channel. We all know he's famous for issuing the donkey of the day statements. What did Charlamagne the God do? Immediately, when the fire is starting to come down on him and people are starting to open up those case files to read into what actually happened, Charlamagne the God is now trying his best to put those fires out. He issued an apology and he labeled himself Donkey of the Day on the show. We know he's famous for labeling everybody else Donkey of the Day, talking about what they did stupid, what they did wrong, the mistakes that they might have made. He labeled himself Donkey of the Day because he knows that interjecting himself into this into this particular debate with Kwame Brown was not the smartest thing to do. And Kwame Brown, he did not do anything wrong in this situation. All he's doing is he's fighting by the same rules that you guys are fighting by. That's all he's doing. And he's taking public information and information that you guys have. And he did the same thing with DJ Envy, Rachel Nichols, Jemele Hill. He's just taking information that's already out there, and he's just reopening those chapters and saying to his new fan base, how about y'all read these new chapters? He said, I'm reopening this book. You might have missed it before because they're mainstream media, but I'm going to open this book back up. I want you guys to reread this because these people who are leading the sports media or leading entertainment for you guys, they probably aren't who they say they are, which is, again, very, very alarming situation. But this situation is still developing. Kwame Brown's channel and following have grown massively because of this. And the only thing that I can say is, salute. Definitely continue to grind, continue to grow. The only thing that I compel everyone to do is don't just start watching the videos where you might think he said something funny about Jack, or he might have said something about Matt Barnes. We all know he calls, Matt Barnes Becky with the good hair. Yes, that's funny, that's entertaining, but you guys really want to go dive back into some of his old videos. Because some of his older videos, very insightful. When he talked about the situation with Ice Cube, and people were calling Ice Cube a coon because he wanted to work with Trump with a plan. He addressed that. He has a lot of back and forth debates about politics, and those are the things that I think he really wants to. Those are the topics and situations he really wants to bring to the forefront. All right, now that he has you guys on his platform, don't shy away. Don't stop watching when he's not clowning on some of these media conglomerates right here. Just because he might stop clowning on Charlamagne, he might stop clowning on Matt Barnes, he might stop clowning on Jordan and Jemele Smith, even Roy Hibbert or Steven Jackson. He's gonna ultimately stop clowning on them. All right, are you guys still gonna tune in when he says a lot about helping kids in the community? He talks about 4th grade reading level amongst the black community. Are you guys going to tune in when he starts talking about solutions to those issues? Are you going to participate? Are you going to donate to those causes? That's what I really want to see. That's going to be the true test right there, especially for all of the new followers, because the criticism that a lot of people are saying about the people who are following him now is, you guys are just here for the drama. You guys are just here for the entertainment. But will you guys really be there for the movement? All right, to make something shake when the time comes? That's going to be the big question right there. But, we're going to continue to reach out to Kwame Brown. We're going to continue to reach out. Hopefully we can have him on the show for an interview. I would love to have him on the show, get his thoughts on how this started. What I really want to dive into, if I was able to have a sit-down conversation with him, I would really want to dive into the 13-year career. Dealing with what he was dealing with, because I'm sure he was hearing the bus comments after year 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then 6, 7, 8. How did you deal with that? Obviously these NBA players make a lot of money, but they also have to go home too and live regular lives. All right, and the thing is, he was able to go years, and we're not talking about a couple years. He was able to go decades without saying a word, responding to people like Stephen A. Smith. You guys heard those videos. He went decades without responding to them. And the only thing he did was he ultimately responded, and he responded with the facts. I keep telling y'all, man. I keep telling y'all on this show, we talk about how powerful facts are. When you bring facts to your debate, it's easy to issue the max ether. All right, and Kwame Brown did just that, so we definitely got to give a big salute to Kwame Brown. Definitely came with the max ether, and you know what? You know what we have to. You know what we do here every time at FYF Sports. Whether you are a participant on the show or not, but if we can watch you give multiple people the max ether in a 1-week time frame, that's definitely Hall of Fame worthy. So we only got 2 people in the FYF Sports Hall of Fame, but for that max ethers, let's say, he had a max ether on Stephen A. Smith. He had a max ether on Steven Jackson. He had a max ether on Jemele Smith, Charlamagne the God, Roy Hibbert, Rachel Nichols, all of these people jumped in the line of fire, and he max ethered all of them with the facts. For that right there, Kwame Brown is going to be the third member of the FYF Sports Hall of Fame, man. So hopefully you guys can get him over here, right, so he can give his Hall of Fame speech. And we got to get that interview. I really want to jog his mind about that 13-year NBA career. How is, what did he do to manage those types of stresses, the politics of the NBA? How did he deal with that? How did he juggle that? He talked about his time on the bench, right? How he talked with other players and players just looked at him and just shook their head because they understood that he was dealing with the politics of the game. I really would like to have him over here to speak on some of these things. But you guys, let me know in the comments what you think about this Kwame Brown situation. Do you think he's right? Do you think he's wrong? Or have you been over to his channel to check some of those videos out? A lot of people, again, don't get emotionally connected to the language that he uses, because if you just listen to the language, maybe that can turn you off if you're one of those people. And he's even stated as much on his show. Focus on the message, because after all the jokes, after all the clowning, he's always given a powerful message for everyone. And I think at the end of the day, we all can look in the mirror at ourselves and take something of value from some of the videos that he's been dropping of late. And not just of late, he has videos of the past. Go back 10 months. He's been dropping gems all this time. You guys just didn't know because it wasn't drama filled. The drama came. He gave you guys the entertainment. But now it's time. Now it's time to really, for research purposes only. Another. We say that here all the time. It's time to do your research, really get on the grind, and really start listening to the message that he's really trying to put out there. Because at the end of the day, it's bigger than basketball. But it's FYF Sports, man. Make sure you guys in the comments in the live chat, let me know your thoughts on this in the comments of the video. Also, let me know your thoughts. Once again, make sure if you haven't followed him already, his channel is Kwame Brown Bust Life, man. The link to his channel is going to be in the description of the video. Make sure you go follow him, check his videos out. And again, we'll continue to watch. Now, again, I'm not the type. I'm not going to keep riding. Every time he drops a video, I'm not going to drop a video on everything that he says and does. But it just got to a boiling point where he was just dropping the max ether on so many people that we had to give him some recognition for that over here on FYF Sports. But you guys, let me know what your thoughts on this video. We're going to be back with more sports and news later. We got a lot of playoff talk, a lot of NBA talk, a lot of things to speak on over here on FYF Sports. So we definitely give a big salute to Kwame Brown, the third member of the FYF Sports Hall of Fame. Hey, but it's FYF Sports, man. It's been another great news video. We'll be back with more sports and news later. But until then, it's FYF Sports.